Now, I'm a big fan of the first-person shooter genre. I've played as countless space marines, spies, a bespectacled scientist. Since I'm a fan of the genre, most of my favorite games are first-person shooters, because they bring either great stories, great gameplay, or both. But there's one first-person shooter that I own, one that is the most boring, derivative, and broken first-person shooters I've ever played in my life. I wrote a review of this game about a year or so ago, and now that I've come back to it, it's much worse than I remembered it. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Novalogic? Well, sure, they have made other games in the past, but they're known usually for one particular game, Delta Force. Delta Force has been Novalogic's cash cow for almost a decade, and unsurprisingly, their latest Delta Force game is a piece of shit. That game in particular is Delta Force Xtreme, or as I sometimes like to call it, Delta Force Xtreme! So today I'm going to explain to you why you shouldn't play Delta Force Xtreme. First off, this game is a budget title. This means the game costs at retail $20. The guy didn't pay a freaking dime for this. Second, it's a remake of the original game. I use the term remake loosely because it's not a one-on-one remake of the original game, only a partial remake. But let's just consider that to be a good thing. Delta Force Xtreme takes place in 3 locations: Peru, the Republic of Chad, and Novaya Zemlya. But you wouldn't know that if you had played each area, which looks like a generic jungle, a generic desert, and a generic Arctic land. Aside from changing trees, buildings, and foliage, they all look the same. So I think I'll call these places by their more proper name, Generic's-stan. The areas themselves look like they were constructed in 5 minutes, so map making was very low on the list of Novalogic's priorities with this game. I mean, I can make better maps, and I don't even map! Most of the missions in the game feature you doing one of 2 things: kill everybody, or destroy something. That's it. Outside of a later mission in Chad where you have to rescue a helicopter pilot, these are the only freaking things you do in the game. Which means it gets very boring very quickly. But you're probably asking, well, maybe it's redeemed by decent AI, right? Nope. The AI apparently got imported from Moronica, as they do one of 3 things. 1. Stand there, oblivious to what's going on around them. 2. Shoot at you from miles away. Or 3. Rush and shoot at you. They don't have any tactics whatsoever. No flanking, no zigzagging, no hiding behind cover, nothing. Most of them just rush at you like suicide bombers. In fact, most of them won't even attack you unless you start firing at them. The enemies have eagle-eye vision and can shoot you from far away, but they have the aim of somebody who has never held a gun in their lives. I'm not kidding, unless they're right in your face, they will not harm you. Oh, and your ally AI is just as stupid. You might as well not even bother with their help, and just let them be cannon fodder. With this idiotic AI, this should lead to every mission being pretty easy. Or at least that's how it should be. If you die, you can press R to restart the mission, or you can press the space bar to continue, which probably means you start back from a previous save, right? Wrong! You basically spawn back at the last checkpoint, or from where you started the level. This means that there is absolutely 0 challenge in this game. You can spawn, take a few pot shots, die, repeat ad nauseum until you either fall asleep or throw the disc at the nearest wall, whichever comes first. You also get experience points for killing enemies, which only count towards the highest score, and they clear when you die. They don't even give you bonus unlockables or anything with these points. I mean, how pointless can you make these things, Novalogic? Seriously. This game has a nice group of your standard military weapons. You have an M249, an M16, an M24 sniper rifle, pretty basic stuff. Some weapons have iron sights, which work much like many other weapons from first-person shooters. You press your right mouse button, aim down the sights, and fire. However, some of the weapons instead have scopes, which, unlike those other games where you just aim down the scope, much like aiming down sights, Novalogic decided to complicate matters. You have to be standing perfectly still, then press the right mouse button to show a scope area on the right-hand side of your screen. And you go out of the scope the moment you start moving, so you have to sit there like a blithering idiot and not look dead center to the screen to see enemies and attack them. It's very jarring. This may bring tension with certain fights, but it doesn't matter as these weapons have little recoil or accuracy. I'm not kidding. Every single freaking weapon shoots in the same clustered area, whether you're moving or not. Even weapons like the M249 do this, and it's not even feasible from a realistic standpoint. Jesus, Novalogic, could you fuck this game up anymore? Yes, they could. They gave you vehicles to use, which should be the saving grace in this game because vehicles are awesome, but they come up very sparingly. So most of the time you're going to be trudging along for about 5 minutes, walking at a very slow pace to get to your destination. And if you die during missions where you drive vehicles, most of the time you're going to be wasting 5 or so minutes, even longer, getting back to where you just were because they didn't leave you spare vehicles. Oh, and the vehicles themselves don't even handle realistically. See this? I'm taking a dirt bike, plunging it into the water, and the moment it hits the ground, it's off like a rocket. And somehow I was able to make my Desert Patrol vehicle bounce, flip, and get stuck in between 2 trees. And the Hughes H6 doesn't even take off or land realistically. It's way too fast. So the vehicles were nice and all, but with these flaws and these bugs in them, I'd say that you shouldn't bother, but it's either you work with buggy vehicles or you take forever to get to an area. So either way, you're screwed! So already we know this game is falling like a ton of bricks. Generic map layouts, repetitive level design, shitty AI, weapon and vehicle flaws. But at least graphics look nice, right? Well, yeah, if this game was made about 4 years ago. Everything looks so bland and under-detailed it's not even funny. Plus, everything animates so awkwardly, from weapons to vehicles. Even AI characters are animated weirdly. And this game came out in, what, 2005? It's no excuse to have your game look like something from the past. And this game has loads of graphical problems. Look at this. I'm clipping through my AI partner while I'm on this dirt bike. And this isn't accidental. It can happen many other times during the course of the game. And why the hell is that helicopter pilot pretending that he has a gun? They couldn't even make an animation for him to show him unarmed? What lazy bastards! Why am I holding my MP5 so awkwardly? And notice that the reload animation is unaffected, but once the animation is done, it goes back to these awkward origins. And these are the default origins, by the way. It's one of the many other bugs that is found in this stupid game. Sound isn't even any better. Outside of radio calls from your allies and gunfire, you're not going to hear any other sound. Your enemies are mute unless killed, where they shout generic sounds from a free stock sounds for your entertainment project pack. I'm surprised the Wilhelm scream isn't in this game. Every weapon just sounds so weak when firing. They have no meat or punch or anything like that. It's an utter disappointment. Oh, and did you know that Novalogic decided to share the same reload sound for an M4 assault rifle and a fucking Mark 23 pistol? And music? What music? Oh, you mean that shitty techno track that plays when you're in the menus and when you've just finished a mission? Yep, that's the only track in the game. There's no other music whatsoever. Now, I'm not that picky in terms of music, but Jesus, this track is the only thing I hear, and it's so atrocious, and it sounds horrible.